we're on the literally right on the bottom. Ovel, okay. Well, Ovel also this virus. I believe that's where we're up to, right? Yeah. An Ovel is not allowed to take a haircut. Okay, and we all agree with that. Okay, the first 30 days you're not allowed, and then somebody has to tell you you look like a mess. Okay. Like the pasuk said to the sons of Aaron when they were mourning the death of their brother, your heads you shall leave unshorn. The kula also that everybody else. Therefore, you cannot do that. They were kahanim, right? But everybody else has got to take. It's not allowed to take. Great. We're now on today's daf 15a1. 15a1. So the Gemara says like this. Now that we said this about mourning, those who are put into excommunication and atzaras, meaning biblical leprosy, what's the rule with regarding them here? Tashma, we learned. Who didn't stop? To their clothing. Menudes, I would just see somebody who's communication and don't. The Bezin stones their Rabbi Yehuda, I imagine Rabbi Yehuda comes and explains what does it mean that they stone the coffin. Not that they should put, not that they pile up a heap of stones like they placed over the grain of Achad. Achad was somebody who misappropriated the booty at the time of the when they were in the time when they captured the land. Ella. Stone. Shikolam is not based beneath, right? Who to anybody communicated, God's law communicated. What is happening? Why do you do it? The answer is to control those who don't take this. If you put it over you,
right? Didn't have video, right?
You need to go to the court and beg forgiveness. Okay, and once you're out of the now, the fact that it's done now, this is clear. The person has to wear the people. The guy who's in need. You will bangs into Reb Nachman bangs into Eliyahu Hanavi, and Eliyahu Hanavi says, and he asks him what was Hashem doing at that time. Eliyahu Hanavi says Hashem was laughing Hashem was laughing and saying, my children are defeating me, my children are defeating me. The Chachamim got so upset with Rabbi Eliezer that he brought in the heaven into the argument that they put him into Cherem. But they were afraid to go to him because it was neither. He is Talmud. So he came his Talmud came to him and he stopped exactly in front of him because you're not allowed to be within the, you have to have 6 feet separation, right? The corona separation, right? Social distancing. Rabbi Eliezer figured out that it must have been put into the but Rabbi Eliezer refused to bend. He said, I'm right, they're wrong, I'm not bending. And lo and behold, what happened? He died in Eden. So my father's asked, what happened? They removed the. I think that's what they did because yeah. I said that. In other words, I don't think, of course, they don't bury him with this. The whole idea behind this is not for the dead person, it's for the live people to learn the lesson. That's all. So the Gemara says, about Tipas Arash. Now, supposed to wrap his head. Theoretically, take a rag, wrap all the way around, almost like a leopard, except for his eyes. Now take a look look at number 9. I'll read it. Okay. However, the Ramot says in our regions, wrapping head is not called the accepted practice. One should not be strict. We're number 9 on the bottom. Number 9 on the bottom. The Shach explains that wrapping the head is not done because it will lead to ridicule by the general servants among us. The mourner should perform a slight act of wrapping, i.e., to leave the head with eyes. We don't do it either. We don't do it. It's become a which teaches us a very big insight, and this is the most important thing. These are all traditions. These are all minhagim. They are not law. The whole idea is to bring a person to a right level of grief and feel that this was was told his life was going to go. Okay, Yechezkel was told his life was going to go. Then he was told something in the morning. I want to do anything in the morning. Okay, but here we learn a lot of the rules about mourning. Whatever Hashem told Yechezkel not to do, we learned that the rest of the shooter. Why shouldn't he? Because he said, Yechezkel, you're the prophet that's prophesizing about the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash and our people going into Golus. Your mourning over your wife is nothing compared to the mourning that's going to come for the much greater picture of the Jewish people as a whole. No, I don't think Yechezkel was a good. It was just a Navi. No, that was his law. That's his law. It can't be a king, exactly. It's what? Was not. Over here, okay? by not filling yourself to your lips. Needs to do so. I'm gonna hello, Anthony's Wi-Fi. Oh, that's why Wi-Fi's not on. That will do it. Anthony's guest. Here we.
Mom, I'm done. No, but I can't eat more.
Excommunicated. We learned and they, meaning if there was a fast, the 13 fasts, if there were no rain, and then no rain comes after the whole series of fasts. Remember 3, 7, and 3. Remember some tightness. Afterwards, that 13 people sit and they go in and they wrap themselves up in prayer and fast and just think until they ignite the mercy of heaven. And if you remember this vaguely from Titus, the Haim is Sata B'Yoshim Kiminudin until mercy is shown from heaven. So what do you see that you do wrap? That somebody's menuda, somebody gets community does wrap his face. Maybe that's not proof. Excommunicated to heaven is different. So the rain would come from heaven, whereas excommunicated from there.
So first I was like, okay, this makes no sense, and then
so says the Gemara, so fine, and we leave it over there. Now we go like this. Mitzayra, that means biblical leprosy. Ma'ush tipasarais, does he wrap his face? Tashma, Baal, Zephem Yata. The pasuk says it directly, and you shall veil up with your lips. Mechlal to mechayba tipasarais. The pasuk tells us straight up. So Shema Mina. So why did the Gemara even have the question? What's the halacha by Mitzayra when the pasuk is? Okay, give me a second. I wrote an answer over here on the side. Guys, that's my point. Look at small fucking. But I told you that's what the side here is for. So, the reason why the Torah says by Mitzayra, what you have to wrap, because a Mitzayra is like a sickness, it's like a leper, whatever it is. So that's why you got to wrap. But everything else, on the nuda, on ovel, it's not in the person. It's an outside factor. Somebody else put me in excommunication. Somebody else put me not in the goof, in the intrinsic body of the person. That's a different story entirely. So the Gemara brings down Mitzayra only to show that there's a separate. Mitzayra is a given that you have to do what the pasuk says. Nuga and Ovel, maybe yes, maybe no, because that is a fundamental difference. Mitzayra, the koilo, the machla, I understand that's but it's in his goof. And by the way, once he's punished, what they said of Mitzayra is?
The combination
Your body is completely.
and he was a wreck, so I said,
You know why? Because he's going with him to hide the tzaras. He's so embarrassed. Terry says, no. Embarrass somebody, you're tired. The whole point is to learn the lesson. That's all. So, Other also on the tefillin. Other is not allowed to wear tefillin. In front of the Yecheskel like this. I told the Yecheskel, Peirecha kavu b'lecha. Don your glory upon yourself. What's glory? Mechlal the kulam asa. Glory is always the tefillin, because the Shekhinah shines on us when we wear the tefillin. L'chal de kula alma also. By implication, it means that everybody else is also doing it, and that is true. We do not put on tefillin the day of the funeral. As long as the body is not buried, we are in the Einon. There is even a question whether an Einon is allowed to make a bracha on food. But it's different opinions. We do the mile of tefillin. If somebody is excommunicated, what's the rule about tefillin? Teku, I'm not sure. Tishbi Yitar Tuzkimi Bates. Mitzayra.
Doesn't mourner say prayers in the morning before?
Not in the morning. No.
So up to 3 days he may not say.
Up to 3. Well, in fact, the question is, does he say Kriya Shema? The fact is, we do say Kriya Shema, and we could. The first, I said, until the body is buried. Until the body is buried. Essentially, you're off the bridge. No, that's just we know that. We're talking about
and go back. There's a cigar outside. Go back.
Listen with Saras. We already said this before that the extra vav, Vihatzarua, and Larabis Kayin Gadol comes to include the Kayin Gadol in the laws of Saras, even though the Kayin Gadol is not in the laws of Avelos. Remember, a Kayin Gadol is not allowed to grab anything about the whatsoever. He's always on. Must always be available to do the Avodah. He does not prava Avelos. Now it says like this: "Begodim you peruim, and his garments should be peruim." What is peruim? Sheyo mikayrim means they should be red. Rice kriya, they should be red. Veroisha ye perua, and his hair should be perua. Ein kriya lekidusar means to grow the hair, right? To grow the hair. Different Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Kiva, it says being with regard to a Mitzvah said, and it says being regarding his clothes. Just like the being is regarding the beged, which is outside his body, it's not attached to his body. So to being is something that's outside his body, so it cannot be talking about his hair, which is attached to his body. My love, let's fill in. What's about tefillin? That a mitzvah is not allowed to wear tefillin. Rabbi Eliezer would say that he is allowed to wear tefillin. Even a Kohen Gadol who's a tzaras would not wear tefillin, according to Rabbi Akiva. And he'd have to let his hair grow while he's in tzaras, not as a mourner, but as a tzaras. Okay, very important. Again, we're only dealing with tzaras. Because he can't, which means we're separating him out of being somebody who is an obel, because there he's allowed to. Maybe it doesn't mean that. Maybe it doesn't mean tefillin according to Rabbi Akiva. Maybe it means akemusa v'sudoro. It means a hat and a turban. It means don't wear a black hat. Don't look good. Wrap yourself. That's what you're supposed to do before. Remember, this is the time when they wrap their face, and Tysus makes that point. And Oval is not allowed to say hello. In other words, when you go to be Menachem Oval, are you allowed to talk first? No. You have to wait until the Oval starts talking. That means I have a story with Rapam. Rapam came in to Menachem Oval somebody. The Oval was so upset, he didn't say a word. Rapam sat there for 20 minutes just quietly in front of him. Then got up and said, Amokim Menachem Eschem, and walked down and says, because that's what the Oval needed. Somebody to merely be there. Avelus is for the living. Remember that. Avelus is for the living. Whatever they require. Okay? The Kamalei Rachmanali Yecheskel, like Hashem told Yecheskel, He'onek doi, grieve and be silent. This is a positive. In other words, be quiet. Okay, we're on 15A3. 15A3. Oh, you turned the page already. Too early. Minuda, in the case of excommunication, Mashe l'Shalom, is there allowed to be greetings? Amar Rabbi Yosef Tashma. We learned. This is again. This is after the 13 fasts that didn't work to bring the rain, right? How people should behave. So it says like this: that people should not be greeting each other like mourners. Because they're people that are being rebuked by heaven by not getting the rain. So Mamela, don't go around deflecting, what do you call it? Don't go around greeting. Same thing with somebody who's excommunicated, you're exactly in the same place. Maybe that's more chomer because it's coming directly from heaven, it's not sending the rain. And the Gemara leaves it right there. We don't know, and it's a repeat. Now we're going to start repeating ourselves over and over. Tashma, you should wrap yourself to the lips.
People still get excommunicated today.
Let me finish this. I'm going to talk about that. Very good. It means that the lips should cleave one to the other. You should be like an excommunicated and a mourner. Right? Let me just get to the end, and I want to come to your point. So it says, but let's learn from the case of the excommunication that he is also forbidden to greet people. Right over here, it seems to be saying that he's not allowed to greet people. Does it say by Mitzayra that he's forbidden to greet people? No. He should be like an excommunicated and a mourner by other things, regarding other things. But the other halachas, it's an army, but the Mitzayra specifically has an issur of b'sheila shalom, of that you're not allowed to greet people. But I have no proof from here that a nidui, whether you're allowed to greet or now. So now Jeff asked the question, do people put into nidui today? Today we really do not. Today we don't have residents that are really strong enough.
The word excommunication is not the same meaning the way the Catholics have it. You want to say it?
Yeah, let's get it. Number one, today we don't have a resident that really has that kind of power. However, Hasidim, within a group that follows a thing, Hasidim will put, based upon their bezdin, people into nidui. I use the word nidui, excommunication. First, let's talk nidui. I'm being deliberate in the words I'm saying. Stam nidui shloishim yoyim. Stam nidui is 30 days. Now, once you put into nidui, what is supposed to happen is the person who was put into nidui should then fall essentially on its face in front of the Bezdin and beg forgiveness, and Bezdin is supposed to immediately take him out of the excommunication. The whole point of it is to shock the person, and then if he goes in and he asks for forgiveness, he automatically, the Bezdin is supposed to turn around literally the same day and take him out of nidui. However, if a guy goes in and is put into excommunicate, and they forgive him, and then he does the same thing again, and they put him again into a 30-day ban, and they forgive him again, and then he does it a third time, according to one shita, he is then put into cherem. Cherem is 90 days. The machlokes is whether the third time, 2 30-day periods, the third time he's already put into cherem, or is it 3 strikes and you're out, 3 30-day niduis, that if you strike out, now you get a 90-day ban. To come out of cherem is much harder. That's number thing. Because now you've created within yourself, you've changed your chazaka. Break the thing out of you. So, again, nidui, so there's no question about it that if there was, so for an example, I'll give you an example. Folk Jewish simple. We're getting big enough that eventually we'll have a rov and probably its own little vest. Plaskin shiles. When you get large enough, certain sizes come up that require a vest. Theoretically, if somebody went ahead and did something to the shul, they can be put into legally. For 30 days, you cannot come into the shul, and people are going to have nothing to do with you. Then the guy should beg forgiveness, and the shul should let him off. Oh, Meister is a big difference. So, in fact, I don't want to get into it, but we actually have that problem. We actually have a Meister that would do it. Somebody who snitches to the government. Right. It's called a Meister. Okay. During a couple of weeks, it's Broken Grove Club.
We have something like that already.
And that's what I'm trying to say. That's why I don't want to talk about it. Okay. But yeah,
that's why I was asking if he's telling us to read it.
Well, sort of.
I was thinking of that.
Sort of. It's not in the shul anymore. It's not in the shul.
So we did a self-imposed without knowing.
Right, we did a self-imposed, but it was being pushed in that direction.
So what happens when the bastard does 3 hazmanas and you're not answering the hazmana? That's haram.
That's something else.
We have three times that a bestin invites you to come to bestin in front of bestin and you ignore it. So basically, after the 3rd time, you go into excommunication.
Not needed.
That's like a 90-day one that you're
That's a 90-day one. In fact, because that has to do. Bezdin is only as strong as it's the respect that's given to it. If you don't respect the Bezdin, what happens? Nobody cares. Anarchy. Exactly. In other words, it's almost like the value of $1. We know that the dollar actually has no value. Oh, the snow. Oh, the snow. You showed it my phone. Yeah, but I have a. I'll send it to you. I think.
A picture of his son and granddaughter.
I have a what do you call it? A picture of last night at the Kaisel with the snow coming in sideways. Daddy, look, his son and grandson. It's good. And you know,
Look at your life from the drugs.
and you know the city closes down. No, it's slaughtered.
Oh, wow. I tell you a story, very quick story.
Do they have the equipment there?
About 6 years ago, 7 years ago, Shelley will correct me. We're there in January for the harvest of our broccoli cauliflower. So we're across the street from Amila Mall, and it's snowing. What do the owners do of the stores in Amila Mall? And the snow's like this. They get out their water hoses and they hose it down. We have an ice skating rink in Amila Mall.
Amila Mall, by the way, is right outside the Jaffa Gate. Right. Beautiful, beautiful mall.
By the way, I don't know if you heard, but I guess I Googled news
Yeah.
that the Supreme Court justice that's going to retire, right?
Stephen Breyer.
Expect to put him in his place. Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I know. We heard about it. Yeah. There's a thought to say she's doing such a terrible job. She's doing such a terrible job. Let's give her a promotion to the Supreme Court, and he can pick a better vice president. Unbelievable. Anyway, to cut the country. Let's see what. Anyways, let's keep going.
Thank you.
All right, where are we up to over here? Oh. Daddy, where are we? This is getting posted on YouTube. They're gonna kick us off YouTube.
Did you say that again? I didn't hear you.
I will also be different Torah. A mourner is not allowed to learn Torah. Be silent. Minuto, ma will be different Torah. Somebody who's been excommunicated. What's regarding Torah? This is what we said. Minuto, Shaina b'Shainim Loi, can teach others and others can teach him. Niska b'Nishma Loi, he's allowed to be hired out by others and others may hire him. Muchara, somebody that's now in Cherim, who blew it 3 times. Let's go with the 3-time one. He's not allowed to teach, and others are not allowed to teach him. Like Nishka, like Niskarin Lai is not allowed to be hired, and he's not allowed to hire. Abel Shainu Hulatzma, he's allowed to learn quietly for himself. Shula Yapsa Muda, you shouldn't forget his learning. Or interrupt his learning, depending on how you want to learn it.
Say Shalom Aleichem.
Well, we just talked about that before. Yeah.
Can someone tell him the Shalom Aleichem?
Apparently you can. Because the Gemara was only talking about from him to them. He's not allowed to initiate. Baharaya, Rabbi Akiva initiated with Rabbi Eliezer. Then he's allowed to reply. He mentioned kind of the house. Yeah. Okay. But I say, at least I think so. I mean, I'm not guessing, but the Gemara, I'm not 100% sure I'm right, but from the Gemara, nor is anybody. But I'm just saying, from the Gemara, it would seem that would be the right answer from what we have here in the Gemara. So now, he says like this: Shalayafsa gets Muda, he should interrupt or forget his studies. He's allowed to establish a small store just so he can have a livelihood. So he shouldn't have to fall on to charity. He can sell water in the market of Arabis. In other words, basic, what do you call it? Basic needs he can do. We're now on 15A4, heading to the end of the homage. Shema knows that somebody that doesn't understand is allowed to learn privately with himself Torah. Mitzayra mal b'divrei Torah. What's the rules with Mitzayra? Tashma, the pasuk says, you should make it known to your children and your grandchildren. The day that I stood before Hashem at Chayret, that would be Sinai. Just like over there, the Eden stood at Sinai and received the Torah in dread and awe with trembling and fear. So to the Torah in later generations needs to be done with dread and awe, trembling and fear, because we're dabbling in the words of the living God. Divrei Elokim Chayim, the words of the living God. We can Amru Hazovin Amitzayim. By the way, the reason why it's called living God, Divrei Elokim Chayim, because when you learn the Torah and you realize it is as alive today, and we are all joining the conversations that began thousands of years ago, and we're diving in. We're part of that conversation. Well, that's the reason why you're supposed to learn with a pen. Everybody look at my father. Okay? A pen. Okay? Because the white columns on the side are for you. I'm not kidding about that. The white columns on the side are for you. That because you are part of this conversation. And because you're part of the conversation, the Abish is alive. It's not something from 3,000 years ago. This is as today. And we wrestle with it today as we wrestle with it. But just like we wrestle with our Yetzer Haras today as we wrestled with it then. Right? Nothing really changed. The circumstances around us changed. But our mission hasn't changed. Mikan Omru, Hazovim Ram, Mitzaynu Bali Nidos. The Zovim, those who see a seminal, you know what I'm talking about. Losing the words over here. Listen, thank you. Like that's what I was looking for. Right? And what he called them, Mitzayra and a Nidos, Mutar and Lichtas B'Tayrim Nevi'im Miksuvim. Those who had relations with the Nidu. His wife went into Nidu while he was having what he called. He's allowed to learn religiousness, Medish Shas, V'Halachis V'Agodos. And he can learn the Shas. This is one of the few places where the Talmud is referred to as Shas. Okay? Okay? Some people have the word, in fact, the Dedukte Seifrim changes the word to Talmud from the word Shas. Okay? All right. So, anyways, Ubali Korean is Surim, but Bali carries are forbidden because what's a carry? Bali carrying comes from frivolous behavior. If you're not in the right mindset, we don't want you learning. Shema Mina, we don't pass him like that. He's not Mekabel Tova. And not only that, but even if somebody becomes a Bal carry on Yom Kippur, he's allowed to go daven. And He's even allowed really to go to the mikvah on Yom Kippur because he's not going to bathe. He's going to be mitar himself. So, Shema Minah, that a mitzvah is permitted to learn Torah. Aval also sich voices. A mourner, the article says the sich voices. So, yeah, with the sich. An aval tachvay. They said that, yeah, same thing over here. A mourner is forbidden to engage in mourning. Okay, and that's the facts. The first 7 days, we always wear the same clothes as when the person passed away. Doesn't matter. I know it doesn't matter. That's not. It's not the work. It's not the work. It's not the work. It's the cleanliness. Exactly. It's not the work. It doesn't talk about over here because tircha. The cleanliness makes you feel good. You feel good wearing clean clothing. You don't feel good when you're wearing dirty clothing, stinky clothing. Why? You just answered your question. Exactly. Okay, the story is when Avshalom was exiled for killing his brother of Amnon, who raped his sister Tamar. Okay, David HaMelech had a lot of trouble with his kids. So in order to get him back, what do you call it? Yoav made this thing that he dressed up a woman as a mourner to go in front of David HaMelech and use her story to excite mercy in David HaMelech's heart so that he would bring Absalom back. So if you read, so Yoav sent it to Tekoa and brought a wise woman from there. He said, if you please pretend to be a mourner, wear garments of mourning, and do not appoint yourself with oil like this for many days as a woman mourning over a dead person. So you see from this, you wore clothes of a mourner, i.e., no washing. Minudin and mitzarin. To the king. We did not.
It was like that in the United States up through Abraham Lincoln. They never. I remember reading when John Adams, I think, was president. There was one farmer, one guy. He wrote a letter. He said, "I don't like what this and this and this and that." And the president changed the policy. You should just walk into the White House. Yeah, you could even walk in the White House.
Until Abraham Lincoln got shot. Yeah.
And they had the secret service. So during the war, so they didn't even come near 100 feet.
No, that's part of the problem. The president today has become more of a king than in previous years, and mostly because of executive power. Executive actions, which are actually not democratic in any which way. They also don't have any staying power. They get changed every time there's a new president, every 4 to 8 years. But nonetheless, that isolation of the president has created a separation of Washington from the rest of the country. And we're reaping the whirlwind now.
I think terrorism is also
correct.
Because I remember in the 1970s, early 70s, my Zeta took me to the Prime Minister's office. We're talking about Yerushalayim. Literally told the guard, tell him to Chaim Abramson with his grandson, and walked right in. We saw Golden Mayor.
Today it's blocked up completely.
Security? No,
Right there by King George, the street is blocked up.
She was like everybody's grandmother.
yes, she was.
So the thing is, the truth is, this all really changed when Reagan got shot. When Reagan got shot, they started putting people things. Now, the funny thing about Reagan got shot, let's follow this through. 1860, Lincoln got killed. 1880, Garfield got killed. 1900, McKinley died in office. 1920, who was the one in 19? Woodrow Wilson died in office. All right? in 1940, FDR died in office. 90, but I'm saying there was a president every 20 years. 1960, JFK got killed. Every 20 years, the president who was linked from Lincoln from 1860 to 1960 did not make it out of office. Reagan in 1980 got shot. And he said, honey, I forgot to duck. And he survived amazingly. But in his surviving, that changed everything. People don't know that about American history. Very funny. Every 20 years. Anyways, what's the law with guarding them and laundering? Excommunicated mitzvah are also to cut into the clothing. It's straight out in the price, they're not allowed to. Abel chayv b'kriya, an abel has to write kriya, has to rip the garment. The gamal rachman of bnei Aaron, as like it said over there, loisif raimu. You guys don't rip your garments. Mechal the kula abel mechayv menuda ma b'kriya. Teku, I'm not sure if the guy who's in the need is allowed to or not. It's
You could be in the soda for 10 years. So you're not watching for 10 years. It doesn't make sense. There's got to be a time limit.
It's an argument to say that there never was a Messiah. Argument to say that just like there was, and we know there were Messiahs, but they were so few and far between. Just like the Ben Seder or Moira never actually took place. The Messiah was not leprosy. What we call it physical leprosy. We don't know exactly what it was. It's not leprosy. White spot. We don't know what exactly. We don't know exactly what it is. What I'm trying to say is, again, that the question. The truth is, I don't know the answer to the question. I don't know the answer to the question, but I think the Gemara is saying, obviously, if his clothes fall apart, it's entitled to be clothes. But I think maybe that's what you have to do. You have to let your clothes fall apart. Not sure. Mitzayra mal v'kriyat, we should never know about it. Tashma v'gadim yiperuim. What does that mean? Shayim mikrayin shma mino. That even a mitzvah has to rent, has to give his clothes. Although Chayiv, that's nice kriya. Although Chayiv, a mourner is obligated to overturn the bed. Everybody take a look at the bottom, number 60. I will read it to you, Daddy. This is not observed today. One will be sorcery. Number 2, our beds are not like those that will have a conspicuous sign. The says it's not even possible how laughing our beds to be mekayim the mitzvah. The reason for overturning the beds because people use the beds for everything. They use it for sitting, eating their meals, and then laying. All right, so it's got to be a change to the thing. The overturning of the bed is a sign of
you don't know. If I do down here,
but now when on the base, I'm going to do quickly because I didn't daven yet, and I'm only at 9:30. Right? So we're going to finish up really real quick over there. The Muslim Nasnabahem. Hashem said, I put on them the likeness of the image.
And I'm not discussing it anymore. I'm done.
It says right on top, the Tselem of the my image I created man. What does that mean?
So make yourself fuzzy.
The concept is not explained. The feelings of those are godly. But when we overturn it on account of the sins, in other words, that because of the sin of Adam Rishon, Misa came into the world, death came into the world. What happens when somebody dies? Right away, the face starts changing.
Then you don't get warm when you want to be warm.
That's the way. And we're not allowed to look at them. Very important. That's covered in face. Even though you want to show your love, is not looking at the face. That's the cover. Okay? Yeah, when I say him, I feel because of various because of that.
Lumpy and so
Well, therefore, overturn your beds over the death of a close relative. Menu and mitzvah ma'hu they overturn the beds. Teku, I'm not sure. Tishbi device. We'll ask Leo. Today we don't do it like we explained. It doesn't apply today. Aval also basiyas malacha. A mourner is not allowed to work. That's true. All 7 days, you're really not allowed to go to work unless it's for the public. I will turn your festivals into mourning. Just like on a yontav, you're not allowed to work. Menuda Mayasim Malacha, excommunicated. Amr Rav Yosef Tashma, Kishamru Oscar Basiyas Malacha. When the sages said that on public fast one is prohibited from engaging in doing work, Loy Amru Elabiyain. That's only by daytime. Abu Balayla Mutter. By night you're allowed to. Why are you allowed to? This is by a public fast, right? When they're fasting with the no rain, right? By day you're not allowed to work, but by night you can work. By excommunication in a mourner. My lav akula means all the rules. Lav ashara on all the other rules, but not with working. You're not allowed to work, period. Tashma menuda shaina v'shainaloi. An excommunicated person is allowed to teach others, and others are allowed to teach him. Nishcha v'nishbaloi. And then the Brisa said he's allowed to hire, and others are allowed to hire him. Shemami is allowed to work. That's already a take. He's not allowed to base. Do not anoint yourself with oil. And washing is included in the idea of anointing. Menudo marichicha. Somebody is excommunicated. Is he allowed to bathe? It's like this 15b2. The Tashma Shamru also when they say that it's prohibited to bathing, lo yamru ela kol gufa in one shot. In other words, taking a shower or bath. Abo panav yad b'ragla muta. Doing it aver, one piece at a time, you're allowed to. Lava akula, loy asharo, and all the rest. But bathing, the one who's in menuda maybe can't do it at all, right? So I don't know. Wait, Mitzayra. Yeah, let's just see 1 second. Mitzayra, Ma'u v'rechitza. Teku, that already is a different story. In other words, like my father said, a Mitzayra is, it doesn't say that he's also, but what does it say? The Mitzayra, we ended up with a Teku, Daddy. We ended up with a Teku. Yes, Mitzayra, Ma'u ba'asiyas malacha, Teku. We don't know. You would have to support him. The rest of us would have to eat food outside his door. Doesn't matter. You would have to have a delivery. You would have to call Uber Eats, and they would have to deliver it. He doesn't get this.
I don't think it means forever.
Again,
it must be a time limit.
So again, but the Gemara, I happen to agree with you, by the way. But the Gemara is not talking about it. So we don't really have, we're not really going into the depths of the halacha. We're looking at the comparison of the three things. Avol, Nidui, Mitzayra. We're not going into the particulars of each one, in case you will notice. The Gemara keeps repeating itself here. Let me finish up because I got to go daven. Avol, also, Beninas, Sandal. A mourner, it does not allow to wear leather shoes. Place your shoes on your feet, meaning everybody else. Excommunicating is allowed to wear shoes, leather. Also when they said by a public bath that you should not wear a kishabov. Do we wear shoes? No, we wear non-leather shoes, right? So lo yamru ela be'ir, only in a city. If you're traveling, you're allowed to. Okay, so what do? When you go on the road, put on good shoes. Get close to the city, take them off. Maybe not. It's on all the other laws, but nothing to do with the shoes. right? But he's not allowed to wear shoes. Mitzaira, Mao Beninu Sasanda. Mitzaira, is he allowed to wear shoes? Teku, once again, it's a teku. A couple of more of these. Oval also b'tash shamita. A mourner is not allowed to have relations with his wife. Tiksiv, vayinochem David as Bas Shava v'ishta v'yova yalel. David accompanied his wife Bathsheba, and then he came in with her. The cloud, the Me'ika also. At first, he was separated from her, and then he came. Minuda, Mao b'tash shamita. Somebody who's excommunicated, is he allowed to have relations with his wife? Amar Rav Yosef Tashma, all the 38 years after they did the Chet HaMarag of the spies, God separated from Moshe and did not speak to him with the words Vayedaber, which is Lashon Chiva Ponim El Ponim, with the Lashon of great closeness face to face. He spoke to him with Vayomer, and he said, a distance. He never spoke to him Ponim El Ponim until the generation passed away. So the first year, Hashem spoke to him Ponim El Ponim, and the last year he spoke to him face to face with great love. But during the middle year, the nation, as it were, was almost excommunicated from Hashem because of the spies. 15b3. The Sheminu Maiteseyem, and yet, of course, for 38 years they engaged in relationships with their wives, right? So you see that somebody who's in Nidui could have relations. Somebody who's excommunicated by heaven. Wait, Daddy, Daddy, you pulled up too early. But maybe that's different. That's because they were excommunicated by heaven, that Hashem didn't speak to them, didn't speak to Moshe upon him to call, because a band that's from heaven is easier. So pray to Gemara call this whole daf by even saying just the opposite. Remember, the whole Amit Chami, you're saying something that comes from heaven. If the rain is more stringent, so truth of the matter is that Abaya was misopik. He wasn't sure. Zilhacha, if you proceed to hear that just like they were allowed to have relations in the midbar, so do you permit it in a regular nidui, in a regular excommunication, midachale, Abaya rebuffs it and says that maybe the heavenly ban is lenient, but our bans are more stringent. Vizilhacha, but if you want to say over there the wrapping of the head is required in the case of a heavenly ban, so it's required in the case of our nidui. Mitachale, he'll go the other way. He says, no, maybe that's more stringent and not as lenient. In other words, he'll swing both ways because he's not sure. Mitzayra ma'u b'tash v'shamito. Toshma, the Tanya, the Yeshev mechutz la'oloi. He shall dwell outside his tent for 7 days. Shuhu menuda v'ova, should be like an excommunicated and a mourner. V'osa b'tash v'shamito. And oil always means a wife, right? That a Jewish home is called Ma'toivu Oyalecha Yaakov. How wondrous are the tents of Jacob. A house is called a tent because the pasuk says Shnema Lechem Lochem Lahem Shavu Lochem Lechem. Go return to your tents. This was when they separated for 3 days by Sinai. Go back, yes. Shema Mino, that a Mitzvah is not allowed to engage in marital relationships. V'niv shenami lemenuda. So let's the same thing with regard to an excommunicated. This we're stopping. Me Kattan also does it say that a Mitzvah should be like an excommunicated who is forbidden? Stay kid menuda become like an excommunicated amora. By all the other laws. Is tsunami and regarding a mitzayra b'tash v'shamito that he's not allowed to have relationships. So this is where we're going to stop right over here. We got all the